On today's show, we're going to be talking to my friend Jeff Cable, a phenomenal photographer who's been covering the Olympics for quite a number of years. We're going to talk about that, look at some of his pictures, and talk about his new favorite memory cards. Good morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live 3 times a week show here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. If you're not watching live, you should be, because it's a lot of fun. You get to participate in the chat, and we can have conversations, and you get to ask questions, not only of me, but today of our guest, Mr. Jeff Cable. Jeff, it is time to introduce you, to bring you onto the air. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
It's great to have you on here. So Jeff and I go back quite a number of years. Back when you were an executive at Lexar, and I was a lowly street sweeper at Apple, and we crossed paths on the show floor somewhere along the way, and have been friends ever since.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. It has been a long time. So
we both had hair.
We both had hair. That's true, actually. When we met, I had hair. I probably had hair like down to here or something, didn't I?
Well, you're getting there.
I'm getting just going the other direction now. I'm going off the front instead of the back. Hey,
you can play for the Sharks.
There you go. Yeah. You got to do it. You got to do it. So I want to talk a little bit about your history, what brought you to where you are today, and then we're going to take a look at some photos that we've got set up here from your Olympic Games that you've been shooting, and then we're going to talk about this new memory card company that you know a thing or two about. But let's start with the days of Lexar. So you were an executive at Lexar for a long time.
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, a long time.
A very long time.
Yeah.
Lexar, for anybody who doesn't know, is of course a card manufacturer, was a card manufacturer.
Still have a bunch of
Still have a bunch of them. Look at that. They're there. I know that whenever because you were shooting the Olympics even while you were still working at Lexar. And
yeah, actually, my photo business grew kind of alongside Lexar.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, and you're doing, well, I want to talk about not just the Olympics that you're shooting, we'll talk about that as well, but while you were at Lexar, obviously you're using the Lexar cards, clearly, for obvious reasons, and you left Lexar now, what, about a year ago?
Well, I still use Lexar CF cards.
No, but I mean the company. Yeah, you left the company.
Oh, the company, yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Let's see, yeah, almost 2 years ago exactly. It was right before the Olympics in Rio. Okay. So I left in like June, July.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you left essentially because you wanted to do your photography full time. This was growing to the point.
Yeah, this is one of my passions.
Yeah, of course, of course.
This is way more fun than any corporate work.
Yeah, no doubt. So, okay, so you left Lexar a couple years ago, and then was it a year after that Lexar shut its doors?
Not even. I think it was less than that. It was kind of surprising. I was actually over there. So even though I left the parent company, which is Micron, I still do some contract photography work for them. So I happened to be there, and they were having this giant team meeting. And so I knocked on the door to the conference room, like not knowing that they were having this team meeting. And they were all finding out that the company is being basically disbanded. And it was a shocker to everybody, including myself, because I had no idea. Yeah. And then subsequently, it's sold to a Chinese company, and so they're the phoenix that is resurrected out of the fire, and they're back. But a bunch of the executives left Lexar and created ProGrade Digital, which is a new company, which is this card. See, I've got a whole bunch of like props here. Awesome. With me. And I really like what they're doing, and I love their new reader, which is here as well. Look at everything. I'm just gonna unplug it. But cool. This is you see.
There you go. You get it in the light there.
Yeah. I can't tell where I'm going.
And I know, and we'll talk more about ProGrade later as well. But I know that their whole thing is they really are about the pro market. Their focus is just pros. Yeah, that's
which really resonated with me.
Of course, so. Of course. Okay, good.
And of course, I know everybody there, and that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, good. Well, let's come back and talk about them towards the end, because I do want to know more about that company and what's going on there. But right now, I want to talk about you and your photography. So you left Lexar. Lexar went away, unbeknownst to you at the time. I'd say they couldn't handle it without you. Look at that. They just couldn't handle it.
No, trust me.
And you had already been shooting. Now you're shooting Olympics, shooting for Team USA, but you also are a wedding and mitzvah photographer, right? That's your kind of primary day-to-day.
I do everything. I teach on safari in Africa, 3-4 times a year, Costa Rica a couple times a year in the rainforest. So I do wildlife photography, landscape photography. I do a lot of bar mitzvahs and weddings. and then sports as well. So I'm weird, right? I'm not your typical
Yeah.
photographer who stays with one genre, but I just love photography, and I'll take pictures of anything.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel the same way, and that's largely how my career has been on the photography side of it. And I've always known that if I would just focus, I could do better. Financially, I could do better. I could be more successful, more known if I said, you know, I am a X photographer. I'm a landscape. I'm a wedding. I'm a product, whatever. And that's all I did. But yeah, it's fun shooting all these different things. And
well, I'm so ADD too. Like people always ask me, like, "Hey, when are you going to shoot World Cup soccer?" And it's like to do the same sport over and over for a month would probably kill me. It's fun as it might be. One of the great things about the Olympics is I can go shoot bobsled one day and short track speed skating the next day and hockey the next day, whatever. So it's a cool variety.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge of shooting macros one day, a wedding the next day, and then wildlife the next day is what kind of fuels me, because I am trying to push myself in all the genres, right? And I don't claim to be the best at any one. But I think I can do a reasonably good job at all of them. So,
and I feel, and tell me if you feel the same way, but I feel that shooting something completely different does help your skills everywhere, and you learn something differently than you would if you were shooting, let's say, weddings all the time. By going out and shooting landscapes, shooting wildlife, shooting macros, you learn skills that you can then apply to the weddings, the mitzvahs, or whatever else it is you're shooting.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. When I shot the Olympics, and we'll look at some of the images, a lot of the stuff I did was really slow shutter motion panning, which really worked out great when I shot in Tanzania.
Right.
I shot a zebra with a 600 millimeter lens at 40th of a second, handheld, and got a great shot that I was really proud of. That kind of came from the Olympics. And then just last week, I was shooting a portrait of a kid, a pre-portrait for his bar mitzvah.
Okay.
And he goes, I want to do a skateboarding shot.
Oh, cool.
Well, the place he was, where we were shooting by his house, wasn't the greatest background. So I thought, well, shoot, I'll just motion pan him, make him look like he's going 100 miles an hour, which is what I did. And they really liked it. So you're right. I mean, that same skill set worked in all three of those genres.
Right. There you go. That's awesome. So that's a good lesson to anybody. It's easy as a young photographer starting out in the business, trying to make a living at it, to say, I need to focus. And most people tell you need to focus. And there's certainly some benefit to that, especially when you're starting. But to know that even if you decide to focus on X for the next 5 years, 10 years, that doesn't mean that's all you ever are going to do. And it doesn't even mean that that's all you can do now. Maybe you focus on that professionally, but you do other stuff on the side, and that will continue your skill set. And of course, it keeps you interested. Like you said, it's more fun this way. And
well, and not everything, and I don't do it. And not everything I shoot is for money.
Right.
I mean, obviously there's some good money in doing it, but a lot of it is just for the love of doing it. And I think one of the things, like when we go on safari and I do these photo tours, is people feed off the passion.
Right.
Because I really love what I do.
Yeah.
And even though I've been on safari before, it's not like Disneyland where you have the hippo coming up right in front of you in the same spot every time, right? You don't know what you're going to get each time. And so it does make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. So let's move towards the Olympics. So you're shooting all these other things, and somehow or another you got involved with Team USA and started shooting this little sports event called the Olympic Games that a few people might have heard of. Tell us a little bit about how you got into that, how you got that start into shooting for Team USA.
So I was in Beijing in 2008 with Lexar, because we worked in the press center there.
Oh, that's right. And I was there with Apple at the time, so I remember we were hanging out there.
That's right. Forgot about that. So that was what really fueled it, as I saw what these photographers were doing, and I got temporary credentials to shoot some stuff. And I came back from that Olympics, and I did shoot some stuff for a couple of publications there. But again, I wasn't fully credentialed to do so, so it was kind of like, doing what I could. And I came back from that and thought, like, I've got to do this. I can do this, and I want to do it. And so I worked really hard. It took me years to get approval to shoot the Winter Olympics in Vancouver. And I'd already done a lot of work with the San Jose Sharks. So they had a good connection for me at USA Hockey.
Who's a local hockey team, for anybody who doesn't know.
Hockey team and our NHL team. And so I, through those connections, was able to get connections in the USA Hockey. Basically offered to shoot for free for them just to prove myself.
Sure.
Did that in Vancouver, and it was great. And then got to know the people at the USOC, and I proved that I was, a man of my word. I told them I'd shoot for free, and I did. And then basically offered the same thing for the Summer Olympics in London, like okay, who do I shoot for? Well, it's not going to be ice hockey in summer games. So I ended up getting connected up with USA Water Polo.
Okay.
And basically something similar where I shoot for really cheap for them to prove myself. And then, it was an investment of all these years. It took me about 5 or 6 years to get to that point. Now, I've been doing it long enough that I'm in what they call it in the Olympic family. And so I know I'm basically can get credentialed. And I'm still shooting for the same guys. So USA Hockey and Winter, USA Water Polo Summer is my primary team. But I'll shoot 20, 25 different events because it's fun, great portfolio building.
Right.
And of course, I blog every day from the Olympics. So the blog traffic goes from 30 or 40,000 people a month to quarter to half a million people a month.
That's impressive. So, yeah. So anybody who hasn't seen your blog, I know when you were there in Pyongyang, I was retweeting all of your blog entries because it's super cool to see. Oh, absolutely. And I remember following it back in Sochi. That was really interesting because it was just so much drama entwined in it. But just do a quick shout out for your blog, and we'll build a lower third. But do a quick shout out for your blog. What is it?
Yeah, it's just blog.jeffcable.com.
Easy enough, cool. So people can go there and subscribe, of course. I know I'm subscribed. I get into my inbox whenever you post. And the stories, especially around the Olympics.
Easiest way. Just put your email address in the top right, and that way it just sends it to you. And typically, I don't blog every day. Typically, I blog about once a week.
Cool. Incidentally, for anybody who's watching live, if you do have questions for Jeff or myself, mainly for Jeff, obviously, just put them into the chat, put his name on it, or put my name, put PhotoJoseph so we see it on there, and his name as well, and then we will do our best to address them. So yeah, it's cool. It's good to have the live interaction there, get some good questions answered. Okay, so it's only 10 years. I mean, it seems like you've been doing it for a lot longer, but 10 years, and that's only 5 games, maybe 6, depending on when you started. 6, okay. Yeah. That you've been able to be involved with, even had an opportunity to be involved with. So it's not that many, and yet here you are now. 6,
yeah. I mean, it's not that many years, and 6 Olympics is a lot. I mean, it takes a lot out of your life to do them. I mean, because you think about it, you're working, 8 in the morning till 2 in the morning every day for 3 weeks. So it's a super compressed schedule that we do, and it takes us. I mean, literally, the break between winter and summer is generally around 2 years. It takes about that much time to recover for me.
Well, talk to us about that a bit. What is a typical day like? And I'm sure there's no 2 days are the same, but you say you start at 8 a.m. Till 2 a.m. What do? You wake up, you have breakfast, and where do you go?
Wake up, jam downstairs. You get a free breakfast, usually if you're staying in press housing. So you take full advantage of that and you load up. You jam out, you hit the first event, whether it's a contractual event. So if there's hockey at, noon, I've got to be at the rink by 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because you're shooting through plexiglass. You have to find good plexi. You have to get there, get sorted out. You have to exchange armbands, all this logistics stuff that has to get done. So I'm doing all that. And so you always have to get to the venue at least and you have to do a press bus to get to the venue, which will take another hour. So everything is just really, especially in Pyeongchang, it was really, everything was really far. Everything was an hour bus ride. So I've already looked at the Tokyo map, the venue map for the next Summer Olympics. And I think everything was within like 5 miles. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In Pyeongchang, things were 90 miles away at times. And so it was hard to hit multiple events.
Wow.
So,
but that's more typical of the Winter Olympics, isn't it? That things are more spread out than in the Summer Games?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because especially things like downhill where you have to go really far and they try to keep the skating and all that in a cluster somewhere.
Right. I mean, downhill skiing, you kind of need a mountain. It's not like you can just in the middle of the city say, here's your skiing. Yeah.
Yeah, unless, until maybe 20 years from now when they do virtual skiing or whatever. But right now it tends to be pretty spread out. But I mean, even in other Olympics, it wasn't quite as, the venues were just tough to get to in Pyeongchang because of the logistics of the small town. And so you're getting up, you're shooting, and then of course for hockey, it's a 3-hour event. So I get there at 9:30 or 10, the thing starts at noon, I shoot till 3. Then I got to, my contractual obligation to Team USA is 14 minutes. So
14
minutes to get those images. So everything I've shot in the first period, I'm jamming through and getting back to the US before the second period buzzer starts. And so that happens for the first 2 periods. Then after the game's over, I actually go back to the press room, which is, in this case in Pyeongchang, everything was a tent kind of outside. So I go outside, go into the tent, and I'd go through all the images and get them a bunch more. So I would take another hour and a half. And by the way, at this point, I probably haven't eaten lunch yet, so I'm trying to slam whenever I can. Bad food.
Yeah.
And then I'm heading out to the next event. So now it's 4:30 or 5, and I'm jamming out to catch an evening event. And the same thing is happening all over again, where it's press bus out there, hour ride, and every bus ride was blogging, editing and blogging, trying to use every bit of time I could. And then you shoot that, edit that, maybe hit one other event if you're lucky, if it's something close by. Then by the time you get back to your my apartment, it would be midnight or whatever. I'd try to eat dinner somewhere there too. And then I have to purge because I didn't have time to purge everything. So now I go through everything I shot and get rid of the duplicates and stuff that's out of focus or stuff I didn't like. And that would be till maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, try to call home. And then, believe it or not, I would do conference calls a lot of times with Team USA around 1 in the morning, 1:30. And if we weren't doing conference calls, we just meet downstairs in the cafeteria area to plan for the following day. So it seriously is crazy.
That's brutal.
But fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody who thinks that being an Olympic photographer is glamorous, maybe glamour is not quite the right word to use. The slides you gave me.
You're still at the Olympics. You can't.
Well, yeah, it is very cool. You gave me a slide with numbers. Can I bring this up now? The numbers of the Olympics. This is really cool. This is specifically about Pyeongchang. Why don't you take us through this real quick? Yeah,
basically, so it was 20 days of actual Olympic. I get there a little bit early and I have to stay a little bit late. So I'm there for almost a month. In those 20 days, I walked about almost 160 miles. I keep my Fitbit with me all the time. 800 flights of stairs. So you're averaging about 40 flights a day. And that's everything from ski jump to, climbing up hills or whatever. 35 hours of buses, which is a bit depressing because it's a lot of time.
That's huge.
I wrote 39 posts. I did about 2 posts a day on the blog. And when I write on the blog, it's really about what I shot, how I shot it.
Right.
And then, each blog would take a couple hours and, I'd get about 5.5 hours sleep. And as it says there, I shot about 0.5 terabyte of images that I brought home. I shot about 48,000. I kept about 17.
Wow.
And I've had people ask me, like, why was your take rate so low? And part of it is because I was doing so much motion panning that your take rate's going to be low.
Well, yeah.
And the other thing is when you're shooting hockey with the 1DX Mark II, you're spraying and praying a lot. Some guy goes and crashes the net, and you might fire off 25 shots, and then nothing happened. So you just delete them. Yeah. So it was still, it was a crazy month. And I came home, and I think I shot a bar mitzvah 2 days later. So I was right back.
Oh, that's crazy. Right on. Okay, well, let's start taking a look at some of the photos that you shot, because obviously there's a lot of great stuff here. So I'm just going to bring up these slides of pictures here, and you just kind of, I know we've got a bunch in here. We'll talk a little bit about some of the ones that you want to focus on, but we'll start with this, your gear page. What are we looking at?
Yeah, every time I go to the Olympics, I shoot gear. What you don't see there is the 200 or 400 that's actually sitting behind me right now. Because Canon was nice enough to actually furnish it, bring it for me, so I didn't have to bring it. So I used 2 1DX Mark IIs, 5D Mark IV, and I like the 5D Mark IV just for kind of the walk-around lens if I'm going to be cruising around town. Lenses, most used lens was the 70 to 200 for hockey. I tend to use that the most. And a fisheye, the 8 to 15 Canon fish. I did bring a flash, never used it once. Not allowed to use them, just like the tripod below it there, not allowed to use it at the Olympics.
But I see monopods, those you can use.
Monopods I used, and I did bring 2, one as a backup just in case. Lots of memory cards. And I was showing the Lexar cards there because at the time, ProGrade Digital hadn't even gone public, or hadn't announced the company yet. So I was using a bunch of their cards behind the scenes. And then I have my MacBook Pro, which is my main editing machine.
Gotcha.
So and a couple of SSDs that were there, and a lot of Tiffin filters. Those UV, the HT filters, which are great because they're super clear.
Nice.
So that was my gear.
Cool.
And then I had everything in my think tank bags. I had a rolling bag and a backpack, and those went with me.
Okay.
On board. I don't check them.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, God. Yeah. How long was the flight there, door to door?
I think it was about 12 hours to get to Seoul, then a 3-hour bullet train ride. It was a long.
Okay, but that's not too bad. You had a direct flight and then just a train from. Oh well.
Yeah. United Airlines official carrier of the U.S. Olympic Committee, so they usually do lots of flights, direct flights. That helps.
That makes that easy. There is a question here I want to hit up real quick. So we got the right preset. Here we go. Federico GPG Tube, something. It says, do you have a tip for sports photography in indoors with poor illumination?
Honestly, the hard part about that is you have to have a camera that can support it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're going to be shooting high ISO. And then here's the thing, shooting the Olympics is kind of cheating because we have the best light.
Right.
You know, it's lit for television.
Right.
And NBC deems it so. But the lighting is really cheating at the Olympics because it's so good. I'm shooting hockey at, you know, f3.5 or f4 at ISO 1200 or 1600. Oh,
wow.
Which, yeah, if I'm shooting my son's hockey game when he played here in the Bay Area, I'd be at ISO 6400 at 2.8 and still have a shutter speed of like, you know, 500th of a second if I was lucky.
Yeah.
So it's tough. So the answer to the question is hopefully you have a relatively new camera that can handle it. And you just crank up your ISO. You can set up strobes if they allow it, but that's a lot of work. And honestly, your best bet. Now, one thing I did to make it more interesting is after I shot numerous hockey games of my son, and I had plenty of shots of him with his big slop shot, which he has. What I do is I just motion pan the entire game. So I shoot everything at like ISO 400 and just pan along with my son and get really cool and unique shots, and that's fun.
That is fun.
So try that.
Yeah, and those tend to be more interesting photos anyway, because when you freeze the motion, sure, that's obviously there's times you want to see the motion frozen, but it's cool to have that feeling of motion in there to get those things flying by.
It adds a different dimension. And again, when we look at the Olympic images, I did a lot of it because at the Olympics, I'm surrounded by literally either Winter Olympics about 1,200, Summer Olympics about 2,200 other photographers who are all shooting from similar positions. So how do you create something that's unique and different? Right. And that's the challenge I have. And so obviously for hockey, it's contractual. I'm shooting it at 1,250th of a second because I'm trying to freeze the action and get the shot. I can't afford to really experiment when I'm under contract. But the other sports that I'm not contractually obligated to, why not? Right. So I'll try panning and doing some of those stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you ever been able to do some of those slower pan shots for the hockey team?
Yeah, and actually, I didn't send you one of those images, but the woman, the U.S. woman who won gold, were playing against Finland in, I think it was the quarterfinal match, and they were killing them like 5-1. So at the third period, I'm like, okay, this isn't really, I don't have much of a story to tell because we were basically just kind of playing keep away, and it just, the game, it kind of, it's like, eh. So I actually did that for the first time ever, motion panned hockey at the Olympics. and you know what? It yielded at least a couple, but one in particular, really, really cool shot. So,
and did the team like it?
They loved it. Yeah, they loved it. Actually, Canon had it up on the press center wall because they liked it.
Oh, nice. As well. Very good. Cool. Let's look at a few more pictures here.
Okay. Opening ceremonies. One of the things that as an Olympic photographer, people think that we do shoot sports, but my job for shooting for Team USA is to get shots like this, and especially when it's got some of the other some of the athletes of, let's say in this case, the women's hockey team or men's hockey team in that shot. I want to get that.
Absolutely.
So
very cool.
Let's see what else you got. Opening ceremonies as well, and this one's a challenge because I always carry two cameras with me. I've got a Canon 200 to 400 for all my long shots, but I also keep I usually use a 16 to 35, but at this Olympics, I actually found that the 24-70 was a better lens choice. So this is just pre-focused on the stands and the distance. And this is aperture priority because the light's changing so much. And I usually turn it down at full stop just to protect the highlights, especially in the Olympic flame there, and just fire away. But it's kind of cool. Opening, closing always gives us kind of fun, theatrical kind of looking shots.
So I remember when I was in Beijing with you, I was there for the closing ceremony. I wasn't there for the whole thing. So I was there for the closing, and I couldn't get into the bird's nest to shoot, but I was able to be around the outside, which was great. Fireworks. I have a photo that I absolutely love from that, where there's a bunch of guards all standing around with their back to the stadium. So I've got them, their faces, and the stadium and the fireworks behind them. It was a really cool shot, and
And guess where the next Winter Olympics is?
Where's the next Winter Olympics? Back there?
Beijing.
Is it really?
Yes, and it's going to be back at the birds. It's crazy, but yes.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, weird.
That is, huh?
Weird to go from, because when we were there, it was hotter than
it was. It was.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, I remember that.
Just so kind of get a picture. Look, it almost looks like, but that was in the press center, and I am also shooting all the press events.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun to sneak in there and get a shot of me.
Nice. Of course, you got to have that. Oh, beautiful.
Figure skating, looking for interesting moments, and being a hockey player and be on the ice every week. It's just like, look at that move and think, I could never pull that off.
Like, I can do that. And nothing. I can do that.
And you'll notice the Olympic rings in the background. One of the things that, shooting the Olympics, I'm always trying to get the rings in the shot because it tells a story. And of course, as photographers, regardless of what we're shooting, it's about the story, and the story is where I am. So I'm trying to include the rings in as much as I can.
Good. Very cool. All right.
Yeah, that was just a cool moment. That's Hillary Knight, who is falling and keeping her concentration on the puck. If I'm falling like that in hockey, I'm thinking, don't break your shoulder,
right.
Whatever. Don't get hurt. And I love the concentration and the fact that she's almost completely in the air for the shot.
No doubt. And she looks just perfectly happy and at peace with what's happening right now. That's great. What a shot.
Like she's taking it down.
That's too cool. Nice.
Speed skating's fun. And for this one here, I positioned myself on the turn for a reason. I wanted the lines to take you through. I wanted your eyes to be going through that frame. I also have the 2018 Pyeongchang logo reflected in the background there above her. I also knew that on this turn that they'd be coming around doing crossovers. So it's more interesting than just having their legs kind of straight out. So, of course, it also was nice that she was wearing the cool colors, the blue and the pink glasses. Everything kind of worked. And that's why I framed it that way and was lucky to get that.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So we talked about earlier about motion panning and trying to do things different. This is one of my favorite shots from the Olympics. And this was really, I think this was taken at 40th, either 30th or 40th of a second, handheld with a 100 to 400 lens. And again, trying to get rid of all the distraction in the background. I mean, you can still see the Olympic rings in the background, but I'm really trying to blur that so that your eye is going right to the skater. And of course, the challenge with motion panning is getting their face completely sharp, and get motion in the hands and the feet. So
that's really cool. Yeah, that is a great shot, and in fact, that the skater's face is sharp while everything else is blurry. It's just perfect. So okay, how many shots did you have to do to get that one?
Well, that was the only one I took. A lot. I'm going to guess. Well, I probably shot hundreds during this event, of which I probably walked away with maybe 8 or 10 that I liked and one that I really liked. So
that's just killer. What a great shot. All righty, next up, let's see.
This is one I love just because it's just classic. I've never seen a ref climb up onto a goal to see if the puck was going in the net. And I just thought that was so cool. And as I shot it, I thought, you better be in focus. And I actually found this ref and sent him the full res image. He's got it on his wall. He's actually a banker in Liechtenstein. And that's his real full-time job. And so he has this framed in his office, which is really
That's
cool.
Awesome. Right on. Cool shot. Very cool. Oh, and extra props here. That's a Slovenian hockey team there. My wife is from Slovenia. So.
And look at the other thing that makes that shot is not just the ref, but look at the mass chaos.
Oh, it's insane. I love it. Yep. Yeah, I love it. Right on. Cool. Oh, beautiful. I remember seeing this one in your blog.
Yeah, this was probably my toughest shot that I took at the Olympics. This was 200 to 400 with the teleextender on, so I was at 560 millimeters at 40th of a second, and trying to pan with the ski jumpers, trying to get one of them tack sharp right over the Olympic rings that were in the snow below them. And that one took me almost an hour to get, and that was one. I mean, I got numerous shots that were sharp, but they weren't over the rings or didn't have the right look I wanted. That one literally took me forever to get. It took me an hour to get one shot out of God knows 1,000.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Beautiful. Love it. Absolutely. I remember seeing that one in the in your blog as well. That's a fantastic shot. Cool.
And this was just fun. I'd never done biathlon before, so it was fun to shoot something different. So that I kind of did a quick perusal of the layout. Everything from the skiing to the shooting. So I knew how to run. So this was during the start, and I think the next image I gave you was the guy shooting. And
Right.
so yeah, and I wanted this shot because I wanted to get the shell popping out of the gun as he's shooting. So I was basically watching his trigger finger, and as he was getting ready to fire, I got ready to fire
Right.
the 1DX. So it was kind of funny. But I got numerous shots with the shell being expelled. So
very cool.
kind of fun. Yeah.
Let's see. That's interesting.
That's probably one of the it's one of the few shots I edited at home, because most stuff I do is already there. But I got home and I thought, and I actually emailed myself a note, which is where I remember stuff. And I emailed myself a note and said, remember to try to composite some stuff. And this one here, the 1DX Mark II at 14 frames a second, was the perfect spacing that none of the of this woman overlapped with each other, which is kind of cool.
Nice. Very cool. I want to take a question from the chat room here real quick. I'm not sure if we get I'm totally understanding the question, but Paramanand is asking about the technique of getting these long exposure shutter shots. And I think I'm understanding the question, asking about, so obviously you're going to focus on your subject. How are you actually doing that? You're going to shoot at a slower shutter speed, but what's involved in getting those pan shots?
So the challenge with it is, and it's a trained thing. It's like playing golf. There's a follow through to it. So I'll start with the athlete as they're coming around the turn. So I'm setting the camera. Generally, I'll be in shutter priority. I'll set the shutter speed to, let's say, 40th of a second. I'm handheld, and I'll just kind of keep that focal point on that skater as they're going around. And basically, it's funny because everybody else, if they're shooting typical high speed, you'll hear the camera going, brr, brr,
right.
Brr. And you could tell all the people who are trying to do the motion panning, because like, chkunk, 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 and you hear the slow shutter.
Yeah.
So I'm following them the whole time, chkunk, 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 each time as they're going around. And I'm really trying to keep that focal point right on them. That's what I'm concentrating on. Stay as still as I can.
Right.
And that's the way to do it. And basically, for Pranavan, who's asked the question, the best way to do it is start at like 150th of a second and work your way slower and slower and slower, looking at your LCD. The key is you really want to get the face sharp and get motion in the hands and legs in the case of the speed skater. The challenge with that is you might be perfectly in sync with them, moving at the exact same speed, but they may be moving their head at that time. Right. So it's kind of like shooting bobsled. I could do a slow shutter speed, pan with the bobsled, be perfectly in sync with the bobsled, and it'll be blurred because they're going so fast that the vibration of the metal ruins it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of weirdness.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah. So the short answer is you get a lot of throwaways. It takes a lot of practice, but you really just got to, you follow that motion as best you can. I like the idea of starting with a higher shutter speed and dialing it down. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I shot for Chip Ganassi Racing. I was at Indianapolis and shooting one of the races there. And I was keying on one race car, and I started at 80th of a second, panned it. I looked down like, wow, I got it. I went to 60th. Oh, I got that. And I kept working down. I think I got down to 30th. And of course, the difference is as you slow that shutter, your background becomes more blurry. Right. And it really creates more of a separation between what's in focus and what's not.
Absolutely.
And of course, that's the holy grail. And I actually shot some events at like 5th of a second just to try it.
Wow.
Yeah, your take rate is like really low.
Yeah.
It's fun to try. So, and there's another question from Lance. On panning shots, do you keep your other eye open? You know what? That's a great question, Lance. I do try. So, but I tend to, when I'm shooting, I tend to close one eye, I think. I don't know. I never really
It's funny. We actually did a show on that a while ago about how you shoot. Do you shoot with one eye open? Do you shoot with your left or your right eye? Are you covering your other eye?
Oh, you shoot with the eye. I don't even think about it when I'm shooting. I don't know.
You have a camera, grab it and see where you go.
Wait, let me just grab. I got a 5D Mark III. So I shoot left eye. Okay. And what I would do is I kind of look over the camera. So I'm looking at the skater coming around, and as soon as I see, then I'll get my eye up to him and then start talking to him. But no, I guess I don't keep my other eye open because I just try it.
That's funny.
I mean, I don't even, like, it's so
ingrained
in me. I don't even
know. Yeah. I know
But I am watching for where they're coming though. Like in the case of speed skating, I'm watching for them. Okay, they're coming around that far turn. Here they come. Then I put the camera up because I don't want to keep holding the camera tight like that for the entire time because my back's already screaming at me at the end of the Olympics. So,
yeah, heavy gear. Yeah, I know when I the few times that I've done sports, but going back to like high school when I was shooting sports, and obviously that was film. I had learned how to.
It's like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. I learned how to shoot. So I'd have the camera up to my right eye, so my left eye is completely exposed, and I'd keep both eyes open. So you're shooting with a long lens, so I had kind of a double field of vision. Now, if I do that, it kind of gives me a bit of a headache. It's a little harder to do, but back then, younger, could do that a bit easier. And then it allowed me to see the football player or whatever long before they get into the field of view of the lens, and then get into position. Yeah, it worked out really
and
well.
that's it is a good thing, because there are times when I'm shooting sports, like people say, like, what a great game. I'm like, was it? Because literally, like, everybody else is watching from the stands and enjoying it. I'm looking through a hole that's that big, right? And even though the game may be great, it's rare that I'm actually watching the game. Am I in focus? Am I, getting the subject? Am I framed correctly? Am I too tight? Am I too wide? And it's very rare. The women's gold medal game was one of the few games where I thought, holy crap, this is an epic game.
Nice.
And
very cool. But another
try to watch and shoot.
Yeah. Another question here from Sergey. He says, the ugliest equipment failure, and what was the workaround? Ooh.
I did one time, and I still don't know why. I had a 1DX Mark II lock up on me shooting hockey, and it wasn't the camera. I think I don't know what it was. It was like, I don't know if it was a battery issue, a camera issue, memory card issue, or it could have been, because the camera, I used the camera the rest of the Olympics, so it was fine. It was just one of those anomalies. I don't know if the lens had come loose. I don't know. Whatever it was, I was shooting and thought, oh, this isn't working. And I literally just threw it down and grabbed a different 1DX, because I always have 2 with me, and just started shooting. So that was the ugliest. But the ugliest, and if you read the blog, you'll know the ugliest event was when my shooting sleeve, which we have to wear a sleeve in the winter.
Oh yeah, I was hoping you're going to tell this story. Awesome, tell this story.
Yeah, my roommate, who I didn't even know, I just met the guy because I shared an apartment with 2 other guys who were writers from the U.S. And he borrowed my credentials and keys to go, because he locked his key in his room, and he lost my shooting sleeve, which I do have one around here somewhere. I can show you what it looks like. Hold on here, I'm gonna show you. But so this is the green sleeve that we wear, and every sleeve has an emer. Let's see if I can show you. And we have to wear them. So what happens is everybody's wearing Olympic credentials, but when we put this on our arm, that's how, from a distance, the officials can see if we belong.
Okay.
And so Summer Olympics is the vest, winter is the sleeve. But the guy lost my sleeve. So I went to get a new one, and it turned out that it was not as easy as just, I'll take a new sleeve, please. It ended up being a 36-hour ordeal that I was not too happy about. But the Korean people were amazing, and the police were amazing, gave me a ride back to the Olympic area, and everybody made it work. But it was 24 hours of pretty high stress.
God,
so,
I can't even imagine. Yeah. The whole reason you're there and you're not able to do your job because of this stupid sleeve.
When I got to after I'd gone to the police station for 3 hours and dealt with everything, I got back to the main press center and said, okay, here's my police report. Can I get my sleeve? And she goes, I'll get back to you in 24 hours. And I was like, I can't repeat what I said. I was like, wait, you told me I can't shoot for a day? And she goes, yeah. And I said, no. And so luckily the games had not officially started yet. We were doing team pictures, and or had the games started yet? I guess they had started, but I didn't have any hockey to shoot that day. That's what it was, yeah. And so I literally, and even if there was a hockey game, I probably would have, I know the venue managers, the photo managers enough, I probably could have borrowed a blue sleeve, which is the field of play sleeve, and probably got the shot. But it was,
that was ugly. Well, we'll make sure that people get a chance to read that story. We'll put a link to that story directly in the comments down below.
That was the most read blog post. The funny thing is, the worst thing that ever happened at my Olympics became the most read blog on Pyeongchang.
Well, hey, drama, man. It's a hell of a story, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. What do we got here?
Women's hockey. Well, this is during the gold medal game. This is one of the Lavrano's sisters, Monique, who scored in the third period. We were down. So the only thing I really wanted in this Olympics was for the women to win gold, because in Sochi we were up by 2 goals and they lost to the Canadians. And it was like watching someone die. So I really wanted retribution. And this is Monique scoring in the third period to tie the game. And then I think the next shot, go to the next one, I think I gave you, is so this is her sister, Jocelyn, who during the shootout, overtime shootout, for the game-winning goal. And I mean, I love this shot because A, it's a game-winning goal, but the action of Jocelyn, making the move, but also the look on the goaltender's face, like, oh no, I'm not getting this. And then it went from this to complete elation. And I'm not sure what's the next shot. I think, did I give you
the team shot?
Oh yeah, so the great thing about being the team photographer for them is as soon as they did score, I was able to get on the ice. I didn't have to go through plexiglass. So I went on the ice and started shooting, and got the girls with their golds, and actually keep going because I think
that's cute.
This is a couple of ladies with their golds, and Hillary, who's on the right there. I think if you go to the next shot, I think it might be, So one of the photographers goes, hey, I should get a picture of you. And I go, hold on a second. And I said, hey, Hillary, let me borrow your gold medal. And I threw it on. And all of about 3 seconds later, security came over and wanted to jump me because they thought I'd taken it from her.
God.
And so Hillary skates over and goes, no, he's our photographer.
Yeah, like you're going to successfully steal from an entire hockey team.
You know what's funny? I never thought about the fact that they would have security around 25 gold medals. And
I guess that makes sense. Yeah. It's worth something for sure.
Yeah. And then he came over to me afterwards, like, sorry, I thought you were just like a regular photographer. And I go, I am.
I am. See the sleeve.
Yeah, but
too funny.
We had a good laugh.
No, absolutely. Let's see. There was a question that we missed earlier from Sarah. He was asking, what was the most challenging shot of your career and the most challenging location? That's a big question without any prep work.
Well, okay, that's a tough one. The most difficult one I ever shot was a friend of our family's had twin girls, 13, and one of them died. One of the girls died of cancer. And I was at the funeral, and I brought my gear just in case they wanted. And I said to the dad, who I knew, "Do you guys want any photos?" And he said, "No." But then his wife said, "Yes, we do want them." So he runs out, literally 3 minutes before the funeral, runs out and finds me in the church and says, "My wife wants you to shoot it." So I had to run back to my car, and it's like 90 degrees. I'm sweating. I come back with my gear, and I shot it. And it was the most, horrible situation. Right? You have a twin whose sister's there, 13-year-old kid who passed away. It was just horrible. And so I'm shooting, and I'll never forget it because the other person asked about how I shoot, holding the camera up. How do you shoot when you're crying that hard? And I remember turning as they're putting her casket in the coffin. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, and trying to figure out, like, do I shoot this or not? And I turned around, and all of her school friends were up on the steps watching this and crying. And I thought, oh God, like this is the story I need to tell. Yeah. Do I take this picture or not? I did. I turned and I took it with a ton of trepidation. Like, should I be taking this picture or not? That was brutal. So mentally, by far the hardest thing, and hopefully the hardest thing I'll ever do. And then as far as photographically challenging, probably the zebra shot I did in Tanzania last year at 40th of a second, motion panning where all the feet were off the ground, and I knew that was like on the second day of our safari, and hand holding at 200 to 400, and I got in like, oh well, guess I can go home now. But of course I'm teaching the photo tour, better not go home. But it was like, wow, I mean, there's my winning shot of the trip, and it's only the second day.
Nice.
So that was.
Can you send me that shot? We'll put it into the edit later. We'll drop it over the screen. Very good. Cool.
I'll do that.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent. Very good. Well, that's and then challenging location. He was also asking. Is there a particular? Pyeongchang sounds like a pretty challenging location.
Yeah. The most challenging location was probably shooting the World Rally Championship in Sardinia. So shooting that, and in Sardinia it was about 98 degrees, super dry, and the dust is like not dust; it's like a silt.
Oh. Yeah.
So when the rally cars would come around a turn, it would be literally a wall of dust that would come over us. You couldn't even tell whether I was Caucasian. Like, you couldn't tell anybody because we all were like this dust.
Wow.
Covered like an 1/8 inch thick throughout everything. So camera gear was just caked. Couldn't change lenses for a week.
Right. Of course.
I shot I don't even remember what lens I used. I didn't switch. It was just brutal and hot. and then we'd have to drive. I think we drove one day like 9 hours to shoot this one jump area, and I think 4 cars went over the jump, and they go, it's too hot, the radiators are going, so we're not going to do the jump. So we drove for like 9 hours to shoot 4 cars and then leave.
Wow. That's pretty, yeah, that's brutal. Oh, man. All right.
That's part of being a photographer.
Well, hey, you know, that's part of the job, right? Part of the job. Yeah. All right, a couple more photos here.
That was after the girls won gold medal in Pyeongchang, and it was cool because they were on the Today Show. This is all the same day. So I started, you talk about day, I started doing locker room shots, which we always get at least one time. I did locker room shots there around 9:30 that morning. This is now 9:30 at night. I had never left, hadn't eaten, and they were on the set for the Today Show, which of course was late at night there, which was live back in New York. And during commercial break, I said to Hoda, and I said, can I get a shot on set? Because I was standing off the side there. And she was, yeah, we really want one.
Nice.
So I went up there and shot all these.
That's cool. Yeah. Right on. Oh, cool.
And that's a shot I took right after Jocelyn scored, that other shot that you saw where she's scoring the goal. And then luckily, I positioned myself just in the right spot, luckily, of the arena to catch this. And she turned right toward me and celebrated like that. And what makes the shot is her celebration with the goalie in the background, like, oh no. Yeah. And you know, it's funny, it never gets old getting a cover of any magazine.
No doubt.
So,
no doubt.
You know.
Right on. Super. Let's see here. Oh, and then they're up to the number. So that's the last of the photos. This is one we already talked about.
Yep.
Very cool. And then there was another question. So let me pull this back up again. We'll hit this, probably be our last question. So maybe we'll get some more. We'll have another moment here. Let's see here. Judy Murphy had a couple questions here. She says, have you ever shot polo? And I'm assuming that means horse polo, not water polo.
But not polo.
Not polo.
But that would be fun. All right, Judy, tell me where we're going to go shoot. That would be fun to do. I have not.
And then she also asked.
Although I've shot equestrian, and I can tell you that my tips for shooting polo would be IO servo if you're Canon, follow focus, some kind of a follow focus. For sure, we use back button focusing, which means you don't focus using the shutter button. You focus using your back button. I always shoot that way, even portraits, everything. So back button focus, IO servo, and probably, depending on where you're sitting, either a 70-200 or a 100 or 400 type lens would probably do the trick. And try motion panning, because regular polo motion panning would be really
cool.
Yeah,
you got a lot of different movement, a lot of different directions. Yeah, the horse legs going. Yeah, exactly. The stick. That'd be cool. That would be cool.
I like the other question. Tips for cleaning camera exteriors, and I'll talk about interiors. I like Sergey's answer.
Take a shower.
That's reminds me of my hockey gear, where my wife says, "How do you clean those hockey gloves?" And so I called the equipment manager of the Sharks. I go, "Hey, my wife's going to divorce me if I can't clean my hockey gloves." And he goes, "Hope you know a good attorney," because they don't clean up well. So for cleaning cameras, I actually have a sensor cleaner. I used to use the Arctic Butterfly brush. I still have it. I use it for kind of simple cleaning. But I found this German cleaner called the iLead. I think it's called EYE lead.
Okay.
It's like a gummy bear at the end of a stick.
Oh, wow.
Weird, but sure.
Interesting. Okay, we'll look it up and be sure to put links to this down below. That's really interesting. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and grab it.
Hold on.
Okay, while he's doing that, I am going to, let's switch over to his, oh, he's back already. Never mind.
It shows my good organization skills here.
Doing better than I am.
So I lead. See, I'm going to hold it up.
Okay, I lead. Got it.
Basically what it does is you have this little gummy bear at the end of a stick here. And this sticks to you just kind of stick this to the glass in front of the sensor. And then what this does is it comes with this sticky paper. So you have sheets of this sticky paper that you then peel off, and you stick the gummy end onto the paper, and it pulls the dust off, and then you go back to the sensor.
Okay.
And
so the paper is stickier than the gummy, so the dust transfers from the sensor to the gummy, and then from the gummy to the paper.
Right.
Okay.
And it works like amazingly well.
Wow.
I've heard that this is what Canon and Nikon use for when you send in your sensor to be cleaned. I don't know if that's true, but I had one dust spot in Tanzania last year, which rendered my 1DX useless, which was really a bummer.
Oh, yeah?
It was right in the middle and huge. Couldn't get rid of it. We tried liquid, tried everything, came home, used this thing, bloop, picked it right up. So needless to say, whenever I travel on safari and teach, I bring this because I'll have people that'll have dust and I'll clean it.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm ordering that on Amazon today, and I will put links.
Be careful on Amazon. I'll have to get you the link. There's someone who copied them.
Oh.
And there's two different ones, but I'll try to get you the right link to put on.
All right, we'll put, folks who are watching, if you want this thing, we'll put a link down below.
Really
make sure you get the right one.
Quite good, though. In cases where nothing else has worked, this thing does the trick.
Good to know.
So.
Good to know.
And actually, I just shot a huge event this weekend, and the first thing I did on Friday before the weekend was use this thing and clean all the sensors.
Super.
So.
Yeah, getting a clean sensor is not the kind of thing that most people want to do themselves, but if it's easy, foolproof like this, yeah, it's not hard.
I do have a sensor loop as well from Arctic Butterfly that has a light, and turn that on, you can see inside, and literally you can see the dust.
Yeah.
That works really
very good. Cool. All right, well, you mentioned a trip. Let's talk about what you've got coming up here, since you are doing these photo tours, and if anybody wants to join you on any of these, tell them how to find it. Yeah,
just on the website, just jeffcable.com. And on that site, you'll see photo tours. And so next month, we've got Namibia, and then Botswana, and Costa Rica. Actually, I think it's sold out there for August. I think we may have one spot open on that one. And then Croatia, Slovenia in September. And then back to Tanzania for January, February, which is a reverse migration.
So you need, for that Slovenia one, you need to have a personal tour guide. So I'm sure my wife would be happy to go.
Knows the area.
You need that local.
Yeah. And so, and then I do Costa Rica a lot. Actually, the May trip, I think I may have to cancel because I got a huge event to shoot. And so I may have to scrub that one. But July for sure. And then back to Tanzania for migration in August. So the difference between the January, February trip and the August trip is that January, February is reverse migration, and August is the actual migration. So it's a different look.
Okay.
Like the reverse migration is when you get the calving. So you have all the babies that are being born, which is cool because you get shots of the babies. It also means there's more kills because they're easier kills for the lions and
predators,
things. But you get more of the crossing in August, in August, where they'll be going into the rivers and stuff, which is kind of cool. And then after that, we're going to be doing India as well. So, and I update those as soon as we have a new tour. And the cool thing I should mention, for those people who say, gee, I'd love to go on tour, but I don't have the right camera gear, because Canon sponsors me, anybody who goes on our tours gets free loaner gear, whatever they want, for free. Yeah, for nothing. So people could say, gee, I want to try a 1DX Mark II and a 100 or 400 lens, and they'll send it to them for nothing.
That is sweet. Huh. I may have to talk to my Panasonic people about that. That's really cool. That's a hell of a deal.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And so Lance just said there's a couple of other gummy bear type things on the market. Good to know.
Yep. Yeah, but I'm definitely, I want to use the one that you're using, because you never know. And if you can say this works, absolutely.
The other thing I did hear, by the way, is that there's also different levels of stickiness for a Canon and a Nikon and a Sony. So these guys make different product for different camera manufacturers. So if you go on photo tour, I have to bring a Nikon one and a Canon one, for instance, because the level of stickiness. And I've had this happen where I went to clean a Nikon with a Canon one, and some of the oil started leaking out from it was too much. Wow. It was tension or friction or pull.
Yeah. Interesting.
So be careful.
Okay.
Be careful.
Yeah. That's not, when it comes to the gear that you use to clean your sensor, if you're actually going to do that, I would not cheap out. Do not just go for some knockoff brand. Buy the good stuff. Your sensor is too precious.
It's not expensive. And honestly, I think the cost of it was like the cost of one cleaning if you send it in. And it's really not that scary. And again, you don't want to jam the things really super hard. You want to be, judicious about it.
Yeah, of course.
But it works.
Of course.
I use it all the time.
Very good.
So.
All right, well, we're getting towards the end of this. Before we wrap it up, though, we do want to talk a little bit more about the cards, the ProGrade cards now that you're involved with. So we already talked a bit about the history. So it's some executives who left Lexar when Lexar went under or was shut down or whatever it was, and they went off and started this company called ProGrade. My understanding is they are really focused on the pro market. They're not making little memory cards, cheap cards for grandma's digital camera. This is...
And they're not making USB drives, and they're focused solely on the pro market, which a lot of people are asking me when the whole thing happened with Lexar, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Which one are you, what are you going to use now?
Of course.
And I talked to SanDisk and I talked to others, and I kind of got my feelers out there. And then originally, of course, it was like Lexar was off the table. Then Lexar got sold. And then I was like, okay, well, do I stay with Lexar? Which, of course, I really kind of wanted to because that's my heritage,
right.
and I bleed Lexar. But the end result was I really liked the fact that these guys were making super high-quality products. They were being tested more than everybody else. They were just the quality of the product, the quality of the people, and the fact that they're focusing on the pro market. And then the other real kicker for me, believe it or not, was the reader. When they made this reader, they showed it to me and they said, "Here's the reader we're looking to make." And I said, "You know, what'd be really cool is when we have them on our laptops at the Olympics, we always Velcro them to the top." I said, "It'd be really cool if you could make a magnet so I can just stick it on there."
Hey, look at that.
So that when I have my laptop open, it's just stuck there and I can just throw cards in.
Huh. And
so they did. And actually, because it has a magnet, I can stick it to my Drobo. I can stick it to, so it's pretty cool.
Wow.
And so now that's what they're doing. And so what's cool about that is that I happened to mention this to them and they said, "That's a great idea." And I didn't mention magnets. I just said, make a way to stick it. They came up with this concept to make it happen. And I thought, that's cool that I can suggest something and it happens like within a month,
yeah.
right? And so they're working on another new product, which they showed me. And I said, "That's really cool, but here's what I would do to make it better." And they said, "Ooh, we like that." So they're doing that. And so the fact that they're small and nimble, yeah. and the fact that they're listening to what I'm saying allows me to make recommendations and say, for instance, I told them, well, I can't say it because it's confidential. Darn it. Anyway, I gave them some other ideas, and all the things that I'm telling them, they're taking to heart.
Yeah.
And they'll vet them and think, okay, does this make sense or not? But as opposed to, if I were to tell another large company, hey, here's what you should do, their answer, you know this from your days at Apple. Well, why don't you submit this to our website and we'll take a look at it, which means we'll never look at it. Or we'll look at it in 3 years and the product manager will deem it not doable because it costs an extra 26 cents and we're not going to do it.
Right.
And so I really love the fact that this is a small company willing to kind of take risks. And because they're focusing on the pro market, they're doing things like this. And it's funny that a simple magnet on the bottom of a reader makes a difference, but it really makes a difference.
So is that a metal sticker that you were sticking it to? Because these are aluminum, right? Magnets are going to stick to aluminum.
Yeah, so the sticker itself, I've got on my laptop here. And so
there you go. Okay.
It's really thin, which I liked. So it's not like sticking out, when I put it in my camera bag or whatever. And the other thing is these stick together because they're magnets. So I can actually literally do that too. But there's been rumors, let me just put it this way. There's been rumors that they're going to actually do a like a tower, multiple, so you can put more than one of these card readers into a tower.
Right. Well, Lexar had that, yeah.
Yeah. So there's rumors that they're going to do that and do it better.
Okay, cool. I will stay tuned for that. That's all you're going to say. You can neither confirm nor deny the rumors that are out there.
But I mean, that's what I love about this one is it has CFast and SD. So for me, I'm shooting with a EX Mark II CFast and a 5D Mark IV, which has high-speed SD. Okay. So literally, I put this on top of my laptop, and when I shoot events like a bar mitzvah or wedding, I like to do the same day slideshow. So I shove in both cards into one reader, which is connected through USB-C, right to my laptop. Right. And it downloads in like ridiculously fast amount, 3 minutes.
Very cool.
Everything.
And both cards will mount simultaneously. Good.
And download simultaneously.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Very cool. Super. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And they're making the ProGrade, they're making SD cards as well as the CF cards.
I've got their SD cards here. I've got so here's the 64 gig. Let's see if I can
get the lighting on there. Are they V-rated?
Yeah, so they've just announced this is a V60, and I think they have a V90.
Good.
I think that just came out. So they have a couple different ones. It's funny. I used to use CF as my primary card in the 5D Mark IV and use the SD as my kind of a backup.
Right.
So I always shoot RAW to both cards in all my cameras. Now I've switched that, so I'm using the SD as my primary and a large CF card as my backup.
Why is that?
Because that way I can take the SD card out and use that one reader for everything. Because before I had to hook up multiple readers.
Okay,
to pain.
got it.
Now this one reader is magnetized right to the laptop, and I can throw in both cards.
Okay.
And it's also 2000x, so it's faster.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and the V rating, that's for those of us that are doing the video shooting, that's important. Like the GH5, when it's shooting 400 megabit, you need to have that V60 minimum, but preferably a V90 card. So that V rating is really critical.
Their new card, I think, if I remember correctly, came out specifically for cameras like yours, where there's issues where if you're shooting 4K video, you have to have certain amounts of speed. So I don't shoot a lot of video. So to me, it's kind of irrelevant. But the fact that, again, that they're focusing on the pro market and said, we need this. So they came out with it. And I think that's shipping this week or next week.
Okay. Well, we'll be sure to link to that down below as well. Yeah, the V rating is about a Sorry, say it again.
So let me know. I'm able to have them send you.
Excellent.
So you can play around.
Excellent. Like some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the V rating is a constant bit rate as opposed to peak. Most of the ratings are about peak transfer rate, and peak is fine when you're shooting stills, and it doesn't. If it slows down or speeds up, that's okay. But when you're shooting video, you need to have minimum peak threshold that
yeah, I mean the peak thing. And when I worked at Lexar, I always laughed about peak. Peak is like I used to call it ILS rating, which is if lightning strikes, what will your speed be? Because there are many companies out there that say, oh, yeah, we reached the speed. And I'm like, not a chance.
Right.
You know? So, or, yes, it might hit that peak on 1% of the time, but what is the other 99% of the time? Yeah. So I like to get, companies that have a minimum sustained write or read or write speed of. Yep. That means that they're guaranteeing that. Right. Versus if a lightning strikes.
Right. And that's exactly what the V rating is. It's that constant throughput. Yeah. For sure, for sure. Very good. All right, I'm going to bring up your slide with your all your socials where people can find you, so people can see this. But
yep, nice. So that's my website, just jeffcable.com. And a lot of my sponsors have been nice enough, and I've asked them, like, can you give me deals for the people who follow the blog and follow me? So just go to Jeff. You'll see it linked to that page, which is Jeff's Deals. We get deals on Zenfolio websites and all that kind of stuff. The blog. That's my email address, just jeff@jeffcable.com. I do answer every email.
Nice.
So if people have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Facebook and Instagram is Jeff Cable Photography, all one word, and Twitter is jcable12, just because. I don't know why I started that years ago.
See if you can change it to Jeff Cable. Makes it, or is that probably already taken?
I looked at it, but then I looked at all the things that might break, and I'm like,
fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, before you go, there was one last question that came in, and this is a very pertinent question. How much time do you actually get to spend at home?
Well, if you ask, it depends on what mood my wife's in. She might tell you too much. I'm so used to traveling, it's hard to even say that. I mean, the most I'll be home, we'll put it this way, I'm in New York for B&H in a week and a half. I fly home for a couple of weeks, then I'm in Africa for 5 weeks. I fly home for 2 weeks, then I'm in Costa Rica for 10 days, then I fly home for a couple of weeks and do Croatia, Slovenia, then come back. And then I'm home, I think, then I'm in Canada and Southern California. So I'll probably be home for maybe a month or two at the most for an extended length of time. But it's so much fun. Photography is like my passport to the world and be able to see all these crazy cool things. So I don't complain about it. I embrace it. My wife actually goes with me on some of the trips. So she'll go to Tanzania. She loves Tanzania. She'll go to that one for sure.
And your kids are grown and out of the house, right?
Kids are grown. Yeah, well, they're at the age where they don't care if I'm around or not, basically. But my daughter, actually, I took her to Costa Rica on not the last trip, but the trip before, and she loved it. She loved the sloths and the monkeys.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Stuff like that. So, I'm hoping to take my son as well, who's 23. He's working down in Southern California, and eventually I'd like to take him. So the answer is I'm not home a lot, but I try to share that experience as much as I can with the family because for all of us who live in Western civilization, we're so spoiled by what we have. And so going to other areas, especially in Africa, where it's a very simple life, and they're very happy, and it makes you realize that we don't really need to have all the expensive sports cars and the 90-inch television to make life happy.
Yep, no doubt.
And so it's a great reset. I tell people all the time, I said, the great thing about going on the photo tours to Africa, not only is seeing the animals and the amazing landscapes, but meeting the people and seeing the culture, because that really, to me, is what it's about.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. You said 5 weeks in Africa? Is that how long the workshop is, or you're just doing a bunch of extra?
We have back-to-back workshops. Okay. So we're doing a workshop in Namibia, and then I'm doing this with M&M Photo Tours. I'm flying to the coast for 4 nights just to do a little R&R and relax, and then we're going back and doing another workshop in Botswana. And then Tanzania in January and February of next year, same thing. We've already sold out the first one, so we created a second one, which is nice because it saves us having to fly back and forth.
Yeah.
And then we can be ready and awake and ready for the second group to come in.
That's great. Very cool. Well, again, anybody who wants to sign up for one of those, head over to jeffcable.com and find the workshops. Jeff, thank you very much for coming on today. That was fantastic. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it. Great photography, obviously. It was fun to see those and to hear the stories behind them. It's a great opportunity to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, and I follow you as much as you follow me, so I know you.
Excellent. And for those who aren't watching live, or even who are, come up with extra questions, drop them into the comments down below, and I will prod Jeff to poke his head in there every once in a while and see if there's anything.
Yeah, feel free. Either way.
Yeah, we love getting the questions in the comments, because then everybody gets to benefit from those questions. And so encourage people to do that. So, stick it in the comments down below, and we'll take it from there. Thanks so much, Jeff. See you guys later.